Revolution Martial Arts Institute in Swarthmore, PA. My name is Mike Celona. I am the owner and founder of Revolution Martial Arts Institute.
And my name is Chris Hanson from Karate Unity. Glad to be here.
So we were discussing karate's evolution from the period of pre-UFC to present day, and the things that have improved over the years, and then the things that have kind of stagnated and died on the vine a little bit. I'm of the belief that you can basically separate, the karate universe into two camps. You have the camp that's unwilling to change with the times, and then you have the camp that saw UFC 1 through 4 and thought like, oh, I need to add this to my style, I need to add that to my style, and kind of like progressed from there. Whereas some of those people may have broken away and gone straight up MMA or jiu-jitsu, but then you have the other group of karate people that are kind of like part of that group that have looked to the past and combined that with cross-training to kind of see what the practical value from what they've been practicing all this time. So I see that in the last couple of years, there have been a couple people, such as yourself and a few others, that have kind of advocated for cross-training in order to discover like the roots of what karate actually was when it was a little bit more of a practical, practice.
Yeah, those expressions of karate. I mean, so you've got the traditionalists, you've got the purists that like to bring nostalgia back. I think all of those expressions of karate is good, right? But you got to know your why. You have to know your purpose, right? If you're gonna be practicing a martial art for functionality, to get optimal health, for self-defense, I think cross-training is it's the way to go, right? Because I'm quite biased as an educator, because we use we were talking earlier about this cross-curricular integration model when we teach in our pedagogical practice, and it's like the traditional way of teaching is you do a deep dive into a particular subject area, and you just stay in that subject area, right, from start to finish. But cross-curricular integration is, okay, I'm let's just say I'm gonna study science. Let's just say I'm studying the habitats of animals, okay? But I'm gonna integrate mathematics in that study, where I'm gonna now take a look at I'm gonna use statistics to analyze their habitat. I'm gonna track some metrics on this habitat. And then I'm going to teach a mini lesson on statistics in my science class. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So I'm using specific skill sets from other disciplines to study my main discipline, which is science. Karate now, I find martial arts now has gone this direction now. MMA is taking it to another level, right? And when I find traditionalists, when they look at this MMA and how it's progressing, I honestly feel there's fear. Yeah. There's fear in these groups because deep down inside, they know that this is a better method. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? It's like, I know this for a fact because I was there. When I was, I trained in karate for like close to 26, 27 years. And throughout that time, I would come across guys that trained in other disciplines like JKD and boxing and this and that. When I started sparring these guys, I'd get shut down. Mm-hmm. We've spoken about this a lot, and a lot of you guys who've seen my content online, I've spoken about this too, right? And why is that? Because we never cross trained. We would just do whatever we do best in our environment, and that's a natural result. Right? When you're so good at one thing, you become good at that one thing. Mm-hmm. But then you don't get tested.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know, where am I going with this? What I'm trying to say is, like, I think it's fine for any traditional folk to practice whatever they want to practice. If they're happy with it and they're being healthy with it, fine. But if you want to really grow,
they have to be willing to step outside the
yeah,
box. And
that's
seek
where
other methods, especially if they are looking at something that's out of their normal
Yep.
skill set or specialty from whatever art they're practicing.
every OG in any space does this. And I've spoken about, like, for example, Arnold Schwarzenegger. Okay, he cross trained in ballet to improve his posing routine. So he would just take this minutia of, like, moving his hands like a butterfly, and breathing gently and all this stuff, just to get that edge, to get people to look at his pose through ballet.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep. And I think a lot of, and you alluded to the fact that fear plays a role in why some groups are unwilling to step outside their comfort zone a little bit. Fear of looking bad, fear of being bad at something,
Yeah.
fear of having someone be better than them at a particular thing. And I think the idea of belt ranks plays a big part, and titles plays a big part in that. I think when somebody's a master instructor or a sensei or a sabamnam in a style, it's hard if that person has too much ego to put themselves in a vulnerable way or have their students see them in a vulnerable way. And I think that's a big part of that. A lot of it is also, I think, fear of I guess, being a traitor on the way that they did things before.
Yeah, loyalty and all of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I hear you. I don't know. There's this. It's all about perception and perspective, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's great. Like, I'm lucky to have the opportunity to travel, to be here, right? I'm lucky to be able to, like, touch hands with different people. Like, it's an enlightening experience, right? Because, like, there's this shout out to Joey Kombat at Combat Arts and back in Toronto there, out of Mississauga. He's a big proponent of cross training. Mm-hmm. Okay, and I think we've spoken about this too. In his particular gym, like, there's multidisciplines that are taught, and they're taught in isolation, but they're also taught in integration, right? So the grapplers will work with the Kali guys because they're on the floor, but they learn the stand up, all these switches and stuff that'll help them on the ground, right? In jiu-jitsu, in my Japanese jiu-jitsu, shout out to Kelvin from Rize MMA. That is a beautiful community over there. Mm. He's teaching his core curriculum is JJJ, Japanese Jiu-Jitsu, and which I'm working on my yellow belt in that. But his group is a mixed group, okay. And where I'm going with this is there are guys that are senseis in other clubs, sifus from Wing Chun and this and that, and they're coming in with just an empty cup. Okay. They're bringing their skill set, but here's the beauty. Kelvin is using their skill set to teach them jiu-jitsu. You know what I'm saying? So for example, when they're on the ground and they're doing, say, some shutdowns or switches or whatever, he knows enough about body mechanics to tell his Wing Chun student, why don't you just pak sao and larp that hand and then get into a collar tie, or pak sao, lap sao, and grab my gi and pull. So he understands the language of other arts, so he can teach his art. Yeah. This the sweet sauce, man.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, and I think so many people are unwilling to do that. I would like to see more of that stuff happen in America, whereas I feel like, especially as a studio owner myself, studio owners tend to view things in a way where it's like, we're not like this. We try to be very open and welcoming to other, hence you being here, and we've had other people in the past come here. But I think a lot of other martial arts school business owners are afraid to let other people in, for fear of losing
Business.
losing members. And instead of viewing it like this group is mine, so they're gonna, keep my doctrine and what I say and the way that we do things here, and don't leave. But if we adopted more of like a college, like university type of model where it's like, no, this is an area of learning and an area of growth, and you have all of these different professors in different disciplines where we could all kind of contribute to each other's growth. I think we need to see that happen more.
Yeah. 100%. Like it's happening. It's happening. It's just, it's kind of like this. It's gotta come from within.
Yeah.
For me, like I said, I was stuck in the karate zone. I was led to believe that, if you practice your kata enough, it's going to work. Really, that's. And anyone's listening to this, I don't mean this as a disrespect to anybody. This was the way of the land. If you practice, it was indoctrinated in us.
Yeah.
All these line drills that we do, back and forth, left and right, blah blah, turn, pivot, 45, blah blah. Do all these rigorous. You will come. It'll come out if you need to use it in a self-defense situation. Big flaw. That's a big flaw.
Yeah, I think if people are only training in that, if they're only training in that method, then yes, I would agree with you.
Yeah.
I view the traditional way of karate practice as like in school when you're learning how to write your letters and your ABCs, how you have the lined paper and you're tracing the letter A and you're tracing the lowercase a and the capital B and the lowercase b. I view going down the floor in line drills and practicing the solo versions of your forms as that type of practice. Well, we know that learning doesn't stop at drawing letters on lined paper. You have to start to expand to, free writing or not using the lined paper or learning, okay, this is an A, this is a B, this is a C. Well, what's after that? We don't stop at letters. We progress to words, and then after words, we progress to sentences. I think so much of karate is only stuck in that we're trying to make the perfect letter A and the perfect letter B instead of, well, no, you have to go beyond that. You can't be stuck in this same practice mode. You have to work on your sentence structure. You have to work on forming your ideas into paragraphs, and I think that's there are still karate traditional martial arts schools that are still trying to perfect their alphabet, which I think that should always be part of the practice, because I think drilling technique is an important skill, especially if somebody hasn't developed muscle memory yet.
Yeah.
But then, okay, I can view what this technique might be if I can see it through the prism of like this hand position. Well, this might be a block in karate, but this might be a type of grip in judo.
Yeah.
Or a setup for an arm drag in wrestling.
Yeah.
And I think if karate practitioners viewed things like that, or were even willing to step outside that comfort zone, they would start to see that stuff more.
Yeah, 100%. It's like you're going to meet Steve tomorrow. And he likes to talk about it as language. It's the language. He says, so like, for example, like he's a big proponent of the Shotokan microcosm, right? Actually, it's a universe. it's pretty big, the Shotokan karate world. But he's in that bubble. He enjoys being in that bubble, and he's become very fit being in that bubble, and he's met a lot of people in that bubble. But he also likes to break that bubble. Yeah. And he cross trains in Wing Chun, and he's mad skills. He can pull off Kodagaish, the Kodagaish technique, the wrist lock. He can put
Sun Luck Cookie for the Korean practitioners.
He can pull that off live, and because he's used it in his police force. He's in cuffing and all this kind of stuff. But anyway, the point is, he trains in all these different bubbles, but he understands the languages of the other bubbles. So he can kind of like, he's fluent. You know what I mean? And he can have conversations with people because he understands the language. That's the sweet spot. You know, like if like to your point. I mean, so you use the metaphor of you know, words, sentences, paragraphs, you know, and bigger pieces,
and so on,
and so on, and then arguing, and then back and forth, and you know, so you use the language metaphor. The language metaphor can also be extrapolated to like understanding the main ideas of everyone.
Yes.
You know, once you understand the concepts of everyone, you know, then you can talk.
Yeah.
It's a universal language. It's like music, the notes.
Yes.
Right. But a lot of people just hang out and playing scales, you know, in the karate world, right?
Yeah.
And they just need to know how to jam,
Yeah.
make music, you know, and
where it's organic and live.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
you're,
yeah.
And you're
yeah,
in a band with other people and learning how to interact with each other and
Yeah.
stay in time with each other and how
Yeah.
to, okay, I'm trying to stay in the same key as you, or no, I'm going to keep the same route, but I'm going to go off on my own thing and freestyle, but making that sound good. It's funny you brought up language. I brought this up to my students a couple times. Getting back to the practice of forms, and I don't want to get into, that's a whole other rabbit hole we can go down, but I tell students, just because you can perform a solo form well, doesn't mean that you're going to get the practical application out of that.
Yeah.
It would be the same as learning to sing a song in another language that you don't understand. So if somebody learned how to sing a song in Italian and they had a beautiful singing voice and they could enunciate the words and pronounce the words properly and make this beautiful musical piece, but don't know what these words mean or represent. So your practice is shallow. And I think so many people get hung up on, I want to make my form beautiful, but I don't want to make it alive. I don't want to have it become part of me or have it be useful to me. So I think that's another thing. It's funny that you brought up language, because there's so many different ways that you can use language as a metaphor to break down and understand like what karate can actually be as it relates to other martial arts and combat sports.
But from no, good point. I was just thinking, you know, so the biggest criticisms that I've gotten, and a lot of people have gotten against cross training, is this whole jack of all trades, master of none argument, right? And we've talked about this before. Okay, so you can have a really good. Okay, so let's use the metaphor of medicine, doctor,
Like a general practitioner.
general practitioner versus a surgeon. Okay,
Or proctologist.
yeah. So general practitioners, okay, as far as from what I understand, Jen, my wife, her family, some of her family members are doctors, and I overhear all their world, their talk, right? They have to go for PD sessions where they have to talk to specialists. It's part of their job.
Yeah.
They talk to specialists so they can understand certain functions, right? A good general practitioner is somebody who's going to have a good general knowledge of a specialty.
Right.
A good general knowledge
so
of a
that they can
specialty.
have an intelligent conversation and not be
Yeah.
completely in the dark.
And also know how to like be a traffic cop and do good referrals.
Yeah.
You know, like a good referral goes a long way, right? But a bad referral is like you don't have that knowledge. You're not making an educated decision, and you're shipping someone off to somebody. Like it's the same with martial arts, man.
Yeah.
Like you know. I know enough about boxing, combatives, and MMA, and I know enough functional knowledge. I'm not an expert. I haven't competed or anything like that, but I know enough functional knowledge to make it work for my practice. And I've established enough, and I know you have too, in our network, we know a guy,
Yeah.
right? We know a guy. We just know a guy, right? Like, so that's good for our community.
Yes.
Right? It's good for a community. So how, as a business model, how could you go wrong with something like that?
Yeah.
Like you're coming in, your clients are coming into you, and you're a well-rounded dude.
Yeah.
Who's got access to a great network, and you have workshops and that from different people. I mean, that's a win-win, man.
And
why would you not want to do this?
And that's one of the reasons why I chose the name Revolution Martial Arts and not Revolution Karate or Mike's Tung Sudo or whatever style label. I didn't want to be boxed in because the eventuality is this is a place where people can come to learn. Like we have a beginner's Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu class here.
Yep.
We've had a Hapkido guy here years ago teaching seminars, and we've invited people from other styles to come in here and share. And that would be my hope for the future, that if our studio became big enough, okay, we got a guy that teaches this. I got a guy that teaches that. And then, like you were saying earlier about the one person that that has this community of guys where they get together and they mix it up and learn and grow from working with one another. And I think, to your point, it's from a business perspective, like you can't lose. Like, instead of being so guarded on what your little slice of the pie is and not let anybody else see that, I think instead being, and I hate to use this word, being more inclusive, but it's true. When it comes to martial arts, because we are all different and we all have different skill sets and different strengths and weaknesses, a deficiency for my personal self-defense protection that might exist in my original style may be filled from something from another style. But I have to be willing to put myself out there and take that step and be humbled and admit that what I practice is not perfect, because nobody is.
Yep. You hit it exact. You're filling gaps, right?
Yeah.
But you have to be willing to be filling gaps, right?
Yes.
Like I said to you earlier, this whole thing is a curse, but it's a good thing too. We're in an infinity game, man. Yeah. It's never ending. And like, for all of you guys listening, like it is discouraging when you've put in, say, 10, 15 years at a school, you've reached accolades as your top black belt or whatever. You've won all kinds of interclub tournaments and this and that, and you're carrying the flag of your club, right? And you're feeling great. And then it just takes this one guy from another club to kind of like throw a wrench in everything you do. You're outwinded, you're out-timed, out-kicked, out-punched, out-grappled, blah, blah. And then now what? Yeah. Right? So this is where the decision has to be made. So you either curl up and give up, right?
Or quit.
Or you embrace, right, and learn from it, right? And this is
teach me that.
Yeah.
Because and not to cut you off, but like the concept of being the forever student.
Yeah.
In Korean martial arts, there's a saying called Choshim, or beginner's mind. You might wear a black belt around your waist, but you're forever the white belt inside. Always be looking to, like, you just kick my butt in free form sparring or whatever, instead of like being all butthurt and resentful. Like, show me that, teach me that.
Okay, so we were talking about this earlier. So this growth, right? All this character development and all this kind of perseverance that comes from all this, to me, comes from fighting, man. Yeah. If you have this is where it's the F word. Okay, no, let's not say the F word. Fighting word, right? It's fighting. It's no good. It's sport. Oh, no good. It's competition. No, right? We don't do competition here. We just our techniques are deadly. Like, this
liar.
to me, like, see, without, it's like, if you haven't tasted pizza before, if you haven't tasted, and I haven't tasted durian, there's this, if you guys, do you know what durian is? It's a Chinese, you know what durian is? It tastes great, but it smells terrible, right?
Nah, it's fine.
Yeah?
It's not that bad.
It's not that bad.
It has a range based on ripeness. It's not as bad as people make it out to be.
Yeah.
I think the shock value comes from you've never experienced a fruit
psychological.
that smells
Yeah.
that pungent.
Yes.
It is kind of ripe,
Yeah.
but I enjoy it.
Yeah. And it's made, it's turned into all kinds of desserts. They make ice cream out of it, drinks, and all this stuff. But my point is, see, so he tried it. See, like, if you didn't try it, you don't experience something, how are you gonna know, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of these guys, they have these preconceived notions of these combat sport gyms, MMA gyms, blah blah, boxing, whatever, any kind of competition, fighting, contact, blah blah. It's bad, right? But to me, from firsthand experience, this is where the humbleness comes.
Yeah.
You know, we were talking. Okay, so traditionally, you know, what was lost? I think what was lost is the fighting spirit.
Yeah. Oh, totally.
Using techniques to fight.
Yeah.
And fighting is the ultimate metaphor for survival.
Yeah, and it doesn't
You know?
have to be,
Yeah, like
you
it's,
know, people getting hurt,
Yeah,
per se,
yeah.
but pushing a student, putting themselves in a position where they're uncomfortable. And I think we talked about this.
Yeah.
Being comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
You know, like you tagged me up pretty good today. I'm going to learn for the next time. But so many people don't want to do that because they say, my techniques are deadly. They can't be used in competition. Competition, like, and I mentioned this to the students, like, I don't force my students to compete. It's not everybody's cup of tea. But I also tell people that students that don't compete, instructors that don't compete are severely lacking. And generally, their techniques aren't as good as those that do compete. Now, I don't mean you have to compete and win all the time.
Yeah,
Sometimes
yeah.
just being a competitor and being in that mindset of pushing yourself
Yep.
and putting yourself in a position where you might fail or you
Yep.
might lose is a learning experience
Yep.
and a character development, you know, tool, so that when, you know, little Billy that has spent his entire childhood competing and going to martial arts tournaments with moderate success, not like a champion or whatever, but he's gone through that process so that when he grows up and he has his, you know, he starts his life, when he comes across something that's difficult, he doesn't just curl up and give up.
Yep.
You know, and I think, especially nowadays, I think that's people are so willing to give up so easily because
it's crazy, man.
we soften everything for everybody.
Yeah, I got to be careful what I say.
Yeah,
about
me
this
too.
kind of stuff. 'Cause,
Me too.
You know, but we've. I mean, I'm just gonna say it. I'll be careful.
It
but
could be
I'm gonna
edited
say
out
it.
later.
But yeah, I mean, as an educator, okay,
Mm-hmm.
I have seen. Okay, so I've been in the game. It's my second career, but I've been in the game about, say, almost 20 years, and I've seen a drop in attention span over the last, say, 10 to 15 years.
Yeah.
Right, and since COVID, a huge drop.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, a huge
Definitely.
drop. Okay, but I don't necessarily think it's just COVID. I think it's also it's the digital landscape we live in now.
Yeah.
You know, yeah.
Let me interject something.
Please,
Let me
please.
interject because
Yeah.
I've been listening and I think a lot of, to the earlier points to the current points in terms of martial arts and the lack of growth in an individual stems more from the romanticized perception of what a martial art is, to the point of, you know, you said about perfection. That goes against the core value of all martial artists, to achieve perfection in your discipline
Right.
and style.
It's the pursuit of perfection that's the important.
Well, that's, I see, and that's that specific wording. It is what I believe is lost in translation. You're more correct than what is often portrayed as you must achieve perfection in your techniques. And going back to the original point in terms of MMA, where you said you're filling in the gaps, they just did what any natural evolution would be. All martial arts started with just people throwing fists to hurt somebody. Oh, you know that? I'm going to adopt that into my style. This is now my style. I'm going to adopt those. And that's how all these styles, they're all technically shared information that evolved in their own specific ways. The interesting thing about MMA is these individuals who have excelled at it identified the most practical martial arts to combine.